Guys. Check, you know the player Rops? Check, you guys know Rops from CS? So
What's up, man?
messages today, and it was actually interesting. Because I was like, it's probably one of those messages, whatever. I was like, whatever. And then I actually read the message, and I thought it's a good topic. Hold on.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are not gonna give a.
You see this keyboard?
Yo, is this gonna load?
This keyboard?
This is what game movement looks
it's
like
from a company called Wu-Ting.
It achieves
It's basically cheating.
no movement overlap,
And
no
Razer
delay between direction
had
changes.
sync technology.
This
It's an
movement
Alienor
accuracy is
technology.
100%
Dude, look
And
at
I-
this CS movement.
I saw
In the past, this way of input
I
handling
saw
has
this
been
feature getting
determined
added,
as
and it's
cheating.
fucking
Razer,
broken.
though, are calling it SnapTap. It's a free update that's available on their Huntsman V3 analog keyboards.
I'm good,
and
man.
After testing this thing out, it is 100% something that we need to talk about. Normal gaming keyboards look like this.
Watch.
You've got a 2mm actuation point. Beyond that, the key is active, and above that point, the key is reset. That's pretty much it. The main issue here is that there's a lot of delay between what you intend to happen when you press or release a switch and the point when that actually happens. But then, Wu-Ting mostly fixed this. They came out with their adjustable actuation points, making the press delay basically as minimal as you want.
Yes, Wu-Ting revolutionized
instantly
the keyboards,
the
man.
moment it starts lifting up.
They revolutionized
Guys, you guys also
the
so
keyboard.
it's just Wu-Ting?
It's a cheater
Settle down.
keyboard.
You haven't seen the video yet. So this is Wu-Ting. Settle down.
And bounds more
Yeah.
intuitive to play
But this
on. And
next
since
thing
the majority of keyboard
is
input
insane.
lag is actually the physical travel of the switch, it offers literally multiple frames of lower latency pressing and releasing switches. But there's
then-
actually one more thing. On the Wu-Ting, it is still technically possible to overlap your movement keys. If you start pressing one direction before releasing
There's
the
still a
other,
good
It's
amount
very
of
easy to
overlap.
do as well.
actuating both keys at
very
the same
sensitive.
time, and in most games, this will give you no input. The chance of this happening is way lower than a regular mechanical keyboard, but it is still there, and that is where this new feature from Razer comes in.
Watch this.
SnapTap. It only activates your last pressed input, now making it impossible to overlap your movement keys. If you hold down one key and then
Cheating.
press the opposite direction without releasing the other, you'll just start moving in that new
Watch
direction.
this.
There is no movement overlap at all, and there's also no delay between the left and right movement.
Chat.
You can be moving in one direction on
Chat.
one frame and then instantly get an input in the opposite direction, literally the next frame. No other keyboard can do this. Now in Counter-Strike, the most important movement technique to learn is called counter-strafing. It's when you release one movement key and then tap the opposite one to stop moving as soon as you possibly can. In this game, you only have full accuracy.
Chat, if the people that don't know, okay, it's kind of an art to be really good at doing this.
Yes.
And releasing the key and feeling the mechanism release, and then clicking the counter key and then shooting it, right? Because you have to get the timing right, and you have to feel that like the
Zero movement
mechanism.
velocity or very close to it. So the sooner you can stop moving, the sooner
But then
you
watch
can
this.
fire an accurate shot. And this technique takes a lot of practice. It looks easy if you've never tried it before, but consider the precise timing that you need to release and press that new switch every single time in the heat of a game, with no movement overlap and no delay between those inputs. It is legitimately something that you could still be improving after thousands of hours of playing this game. This
Because it's
keyboard,
basically
though,
frame
can do it
perfect every time,
perfectly
right?
every single time with like no effort. All you need to do is be moving in one direction and tap the opposite direction, and you get a perfect counter strafe every single time. And I don't mean like perfect as in like kind of perfect, I mean frame by frame. This is as perfect of a counter strafe as the game engine will allow. So here's a bit of a counter strafing simulation between the Razer Huntsman Mini V3 and the Wu-Ting 60. These two solenoids will perform a strafe and a counter strafe, so we can see which keyboard will give us the better movement. And to kind of simulate human error, I've added a tiny bit of overlap. Basically, if you were to start pressing one key without lifting the other
And most
immediately,
players are
which
going to have a
is
little bit of
way
overlap
more
here.
common than you might think, especially under the pressure of a competitive game, even for a pro player. And yeah, we can see a difference. Razer's SnapTap gets us back to full weapon accuracy roughly 60 to 70 milliseconds faster. And maybe more importantly here, there
That's
are several
insane.
frames where you'll be at full accuracy on the Razer, but almost full spread on the wounding. And then in Overwatch, where you don't have counter strafing, but you do
60
have
ms
instant
means that you're
changes in
playing on
direction,
lag.
it's a very similar result. Not something that's easily noticeable in real time, but keep in mind this is the exact same input happening on both keyboards, but with a different result. I've also only simulated a tiny bit of overlap of just 50 milliseconds. The worse that overlap is, the more dramatic this result will
Then
be.
watch
But again,
the
the
last
big
move he
thing
does.
here is how easy this is to do every single time, and you get a perfect input. I can personally count the number of times that I've played CS. It's enough to know that my movement is pretty bad, but this keyboard turned me into a counter-strafing god within about 5 minutes of practice.
Yep.
It was so easy
And
to do.
I saw
over
some
and over.
retard in the comment section. This only makes a difference for pros. No, it's the opposite. The pros already know how to do it. If you're a noob, it fixes the issue. It just makes you a god at everything, right? It's kind of cheating.
And even under the pressure
So,
of a
yeah,
1v1,
that guy's
this
fucking
keyboard
retarded.
just did it for me. But then I noticed something that's maybe even more broken.
Like,
If you
watch
hold
the video
down
before you
one
comment,
Watch
man.
this, chat. Watch
and
this.
keep
You don't know what you're
tapping
talking
in
about,
opposite
just watch the video
direction,
before.
You can do absolutely perfect jiggle strafing. Again here, no input overlapping or delay. It's brutally easy to do. And if you stay within the right dead zone in Counter-Strike, you still technically
There's more
have
features as
full
well.
accuracy.
You can
It makes
instantly
micro-correcting
release
with little
all the
strafe
time,
inputs
right?
absurdly easy.
You can have a
perfect jiggle peaks around corners
an
with, like,
automatically
no effort at
adjusting
all.
actuation
You're a lot
point. It's
harder to hit
insane.
compared to just standing
It's
still or
literally cheating.
crouching. It's kind of busted in Overwatch as well.
Chat,
I mean,
look
it's
at
like
Overwatch
the most
movement.
insane
Look at
strafe I've personally ever seen. This kind of strafe with no error or delay is actually impossible on any other keyboard unless you're a robot. The usefulness of this in an actual competitive match though is definitely up for debate, but used in a more normal way where you're actually dodging and mirroring enemy input, it does definitely feel like a more responsive and clean input. Now this snap tap feature, this way of only prioritizing your last pressed input, is actually nothing new. It's been around for a while in both Team Fortress 2 and Counter-Strike with something called null cancelling movement. It's a script which basically does the same thing on pretty much any keyboard, and at least in
But it's a
CS
script.
it wasn't allowed
It's
in competition.
built into the.
This
This
new
one's
keyboard,
built into the
though,
keyboard. They
apparently
can't
is
detect
allowed
it.
at the highest level of ESL tournaments, which is going to be interesting for sure. For most people who are just going to be using this to rank up online though, I don't think that this is like bannable or even detectable because it's doing it at a...
The way I feel this, chat, is like this. I think before the keyboards were not mechanical, right? And then people introduced mechanical keyboards. I feel like this is as cheating as mechanical keyboards were to non-mechanical keyboards, right? So I feel like
No. What I think, what he says with as cheating, is when they introduced analog, it was better, right? You have less delay, that's one, but also there's a feature which allows you to basically rapid press way easier. It's way easier. It's not free, but it's way easier. This, I don't know, because they also have features that are macros basically, and that's usually regarded as cheating. This maybe, I don't know, it's not really detectable. Yeah, it's pretty odd. I don't know, this seems different though, because mechanical,
Maybe I'm
So you can
it was just better.
hard, and I agree that you
It wasn't
probably should
easier, it was
but
just
then
better. Just because the keyboards
gonna
were
level up.
better built.
wrong there. But yeah, I think we're
This
at an interesting
does
point in
make a
time
mechanical
in
difference.
Gaming keyboards especially, where game developers and tournament referees need to look at this stuff and actually decide whether it is broken for their particular game. Especially the way
Yeah,
that it
the
can be
thing
used
about
to
this
AD
that's not
spams.
fun is these keyboards go for over $200. Easily over 200. 210, yes. And if you're a pro, you're at such a big disadvantage if you don't spend this money. And pros don't make a lot of money. It just makes it kind of pay to win, which isn't that fun.
So quickly and so accurately with no error. Yeah.
The other features aren't really cheating.
I don't think, guys, if you go to watch chat, you know that if you spam your keys, right? Spam your keys, a lot of strafes are not going to register, right? So even though you're spamming really fast, you will get a lot of strafes. But this means that every single time you strafed, the character did your strafe. So if you spammed, it doesn't matter. Every singular movement was done in the game with no delay.
It's just not normal. For those that play Valorant though, there's actually nothing to worry about here because Razor's snap tap is actually not that useful. counter-strafing in Valorant is nowhere near as strong as in CS. You do get slightly shorter animations, but yeah, rapid trigger has a much greater effect here. At the very least, it is a nice feature that means that you will never be overlapping inputs, but that's pretty much it. Now, Wooting does have a kind of similar feature to this called Rappy Snappy. It's similar in the way that it won't let you overlap inputs, but instead it prioritizes the furthest pressed input, not the last pressed input like Razer. Wooting's version is pretty harmless, at least for FPS games. It's not
which doesn't really matter much because of activation point.
Too beneficial, since most people are going to be pressing
because of activation point, it doesn't matter that much.
Otherwise, this thing is seriously OP, especially for CS. I can see why a few pro players don't want this thing to be included in competition. Game movement, after all, is a skill. Just like your aim, it takes thousands of hours to get it to a really competitive level. With this keyboard, though, you're kind of cheat coding your way to a perfect input. I mean, the fact that I can pick up this keyboard and have like actually better strafing inputs than some pro players out there, that does make this feel kind of broken.
Yeah, I think they should be banned until
Love the iRacing xQcl.
Chat, I think it should be banned until everybody has it, or like most like keyboards have them, or whatever, or like most keyboards are updated. Because otherwise it's just it's unfair. It's broken as fuck. It's lame. Because it'll feel like people are playing a different game than you are, and you have less fun playing games.
Yo, 49 months.
Yeah.
Please welcome me
to the
jungle. It's my 49th.